UFC Fight Night Woodley vs Burns takes place this weekend, and although it is not the most stacked card in the world, it doesn't have a lot of ranked fighters on the card, it doesn't have a lot of huge names on the card, one thing that it does have is a lot of young talent that a lot of people have not heard of yet, so that's the point of this video. These are the guys you need to watch out for at UFC Fight Night Woodley vs Burns. When I was first going to make this video, Kevin Holland was going to be a mainstay of this video, he's going to be the whole point of the video. However, he is now off the card, and that really does hurt my feelings. Kevin Holland will not be fighting Daniel Rodriguez at UFC Fight Night Woodley vs Burns. It really does sadden me, because it was one of the only reasons that I was really interested in the card. However, I'm going to be going through some of my other reasons. There are a lot of fighters on this card that need to be spoken about. The first one is going to be Spike Carlile. He's got a really good position on the card, facing Billy Quarantillo. Billy Quarantillo in his last fight in the UFC. Another guy I'm going to mention on this list. Both of these guys in this fight, Spike Carlile and Billy Quarantillo, may well be the next big thing in the UFC, because both of them are very marketable, both of them have great records, both of them are very dominant in their wins in very different ways. Billy Quarantillo is a man who likes to really dominate guys on the ground, a Bryce Mitchell-esque approach to the game, except no twisters, if you know what I mean. But Billy Quarantillo, very good on the feet as well. But Spike Carlile has a different way of dominating people that makes me feel like he could be a very big breakthrough star. Plus, he's ginger, which is always a draw. I have no idea why ginger people are bullied. They're actually some of the coolest people in the world. Either way, Spike Carlile versus Billy Quarantillo, both guys are on my list this time. Normally I just pick one guy from each fight who I think is going to win, but I'm putting both Billy Quarantillo and Spike Carlile on the list. Billy Quarantillo is on a ridiculous win streak right now. I believe he's on a 6-fight win streak against good opponents as well. He's fought guys 5-1, 8-2, 9-2 against Kamala Kirk, 8-2 in his last fight against Jacob Kilburn. Amazing opponents, and Billy Quarantillo is dominating all of them very easily. I think he could be a real mainstay in the division. At featherweight, I'm looking forward to the bout, but Spike Carlile, on the other hand, is someone I really want you guys to look out for, because there is excitement in every single one of his fights. As soon as the bell sounds, he is trying to knock your head off. The Alpha Ginger is coming for Billy Quarantillo. I've actually picked Spike Carlile to win this as an underdog. A lot of people are picking Billy Quarantillo because of his last fight against Jacob Kilburn. Jacob Kilburn is a Contender Series reject that got dominated by Bobby Moffett like he was nothing. And that's how he got his way into the UFC. On short notice to fight Billy Quarantillo. I don't think that Billy Quarantillo is going to have the same success that he did against Jacob Kilburn in a fight against Spike Carlile. I think the Alpha Ginger is going to be a little bit too much for him. I'm picking Spike Carlile to win this fight. However, pay attention to both of these men, because they are going to be very welcome additions to the featherweight division right now. Spike Carlile is on a ridiculous win streak. He had one loss in his career to split decision. Other than that, he's been pretty flawless all the way through. Finished every single one of his opponents, dare I say. No, he's been to a decision once. At featherweight, that's a really big deal. If you went to decision once at heavyweight, I would even congratulate a heavyweight for only going to a decision once. For him to be doing this as a fucking featherweight, and not a big one at that as well, because Spike Carlile is not the biggest featherweight in the world. For him to be flattening every single opponent and destroying them, and only going to a decision once, this is someone that the UFC could really get behind. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight take place, and whoever does win this fight is going to be in a really good position in that featherweight division, and maybe looking to call out guys like Hakeem Dawodu, Grant Dawson. Whoever wins this one's going to be on a 2-fight win streak, so they're going to be looking to jump up the rankings. I'm looking forward to this fight. That's my most interesting fight on the entire card, other than the main event. I would have said Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez, but this one has now taken the second place. Spike Carlile versus Billy Quarantillo. I'm looking forward to it. Another fight on the card. Fighter on the card. Jamahall Hill is taking Klidson Farias Diabriu. A really tough test. Klidson Diabriu has only lost to decent guys in the UFC, like Shamil Gamzatov in his last fight by a close decision. He's no slouch. He's fought some good guys. He survived the distance against Magomed Ankalaev. That says something about how good he is. Plus, he looks like Kelvin Gastelum. And as we've known in the UFC, Kelvin Gastelum lookalikes seem to do really well, unless their names are Nasrat Haqparast and they get KO'd by Drew Dober. But either way, Jamahall Hill is a real dangerous threat. And plus, here's something I really want to mention with Jamahall Hill. He's 29 years old. When I first saw Jamahall Hill, I thought he was about 22. Maybe 23, just getting into the UFC. I thought the same thing about Adesanya and a lot of these other guys that come through really quickly and are really flashy and they talk the talk. You think they're a lot younger than they are. But however, hearing that he is 29 years of age tells me that he's going to be a real fast learner, because he only just got into the game of MMA. He started his MMA career when? 2016. That's 4 years ago. He's already in the UFC. I like that at the middleweight division. This isn't a light heavyweight just getting into the UFC after a few years, because that's pretty fucking easy to do. Or a heavyweight doing the same thing. If you're a big guy with abs at heavyweight or light heavyweight, you're probably going to make it into the UFC because we don't have a lot of those guys floating around. However, at middleweight, it's a little bit more difficult. I respect Jamahall Hill for getting it done, not to mention he beat the greatest fighter of all time, Darko Stosic. Undefeated, undisputed, the greatest fighter of all time, Darko Stosic, has never been done before. He's broken all records in MMA history. Darko Stosic is the man, the myth, the legend. And Jamahall Hill beat him. That's saying something. I think Jamahall Hill's going to beat Clinton Farias Diabriu. I think he even might get it done by finish. I like Jamahall Hill. I love watching him fight. One thing I do worry about with him is how far he keeps his chin up in the air. However, I feel like he is tall enough to maybe get away with it in certain situations. I could really eat my words there, but even still, I think Jamahall Hill's going to get the job done over Clinton Farias Diabriu. I'm looking forward to it. Both guys are real prospects in the UFC. Clinton Farias Diabriu is only 27 years of age. He's still got time to go, but right now it's all systems ahead. Jamahall Hill, if he wins this one, will be on a 2-fight win streak. I would look for him to fight guys like Jimmy Crute, maybe Ion Kutalaba, who needs an opponent right now since Magomed Ankalaev is in the middle of Ramadan at the moment. There are a lot of guys in the light heavyweight division that need opponents desperately right now. I don't know why I said he was a middleweight. He's a light heavyweight. I fucking knew that shit because so's all of his opponents. Either way, he did it in the light heavyweight division, which is still somewhat impressive. Okay, it puts him up there with Dominic Reyes, these athletes that really quickly get into the UFC. I like it. Jamahall Hill is going to get the job done. I look like a fool right now because I said middleweight and he's a light heavyweight. Really has pissed me off. But Jamahall Hill's going to get the job done. I knew he was a light heavyweight. Even still, I think after this win, if he does get a big win over Clinton Farias Diabriu, he shows that he belongs in the top of the light heavyweight division. I'd look forward to him taking on guys like Jimmy Crute, Ion Kutalaba, maybe OSP if he comes back down. There are big things on the line. If Jamahall Hill gets this done, he's undefeated. He would improve his record to, 9-0? If he wins this next one, who knows? There's good fights ahead of him. I think he's going to get it done. Jamahall Hill wins by TKO. Pay attention to him because he's very marketable and he's only just hitting his prime. So if he is going to make a run towards the title, it's going to be right now with no interruptions. I'm looking forward to his second fight in the UFC against Clinton Farias Diabriu. He's fought decent opponents throughout his career. A guy who was 9-2 when he was 5-0. When he was 3-0, he fought Daquan Townsend, who was 19-7. For a 3-0 guy to fight a guy that experienced, that takes some oranges, if you know what I mean. I like Jamahall Hill. He's beaten some decent opponents. I think he's going to go far in the UFC. I think he's going to beat Clinton Farias Diabriu. And if he does beat him, he's beaten a very good guy in Clinton Farias Diabriu. So I'm looking forward to Jamahall Hill. Another guy on the card, fighting a man named Brok Weaver, who could also be on this list. A very interesting guy. Had a real rough start to the UFC, but got his hand raised, so he's technically coming off a win. Roosevelt Roberts, however, his opponent, is someone I really do want to talk about. A young guy, 26 years of age, coming off the Contender Series, has looked great in the UFC so far, only losing to a guy in Vince Pichel, who's a great fighter, by the way. If you don't remember Vince Pichel's run on the Ultimate Fighter, and then he eventually got into the UFC, he's not the most active of fighters, but he's very good when he does show up. Okay, he's like Gregor Gillespie before he fought Kevin Lee. Not the most active, not the most known about, but when he does show up, he puts on good performances. And Vince Pichel showed him a few things, and then in his next fight against Alexander Yakovlev, he showed a lot of his grappling skill. He showed that he's improved his grappling tremendously. He's got a great frame for the division. He's got an amazing length, amazing reach for the division. I like his boxing. He doesn't throw everything behind his shots. He picks guys apart. He doesn't mind a few decisions, which I think is actually, you know, it's very good to dominate guys and KO them like Spike Carlile, but it's also like, when you take guys to a decision and you play that judge's game a lot of the time, you've got to be very skilled to do that as well. So I'm giving credit to Roosevelt Roberts here. I think he's going to get a jump on Brok Weaver because I saw Brok Weaver get absolutely annihilated in his last fight and got destroyed. I know it was a disqualification due to an illegal knee, but we all know what we watched in the Brok Weaver fight. He basically got dismantled against the cage, dragged down, thrown around like he was nothing, and then eventually a knee happened that was quite illegal and he got KO'd. I still see Brok Weaver coming off a KO loss. You know, because this wasn't like an illegal knee where they went, oh, it's illegal, stop the fight, we're going to have to call it off. He got KO'd, you know. He still took the KO damage, so you can't really say he's coming off a win. Because even if the rules dictate that he won the fight because of a disqualification, he still got KO'd. You know? That's a loss to me. But even still, Brok Weaver could get the job done. He's a very dangerous opponent. I just feel as though Roosevelt Roberts is going to get it. He's just a little bit too clean, a little bit too technical. He's fought great opponents. He fought Darrell Horcher when he was 6-0. That's a big jump up in competition. He fought a guy who was 10-6 when he was 2-0. That's a good jump up in competition, even if they aren't the best records. To fight a guy, and I said this about Jamahall Hill as well, to fight a guy when you are 2-0 that has a whole bunch of experience, that really does worry me. But speaking of experience, amateur experience is on the side of Roosevelt Roberts here. I like it when guys go for the amateurs first. It really tells me that they are focused on having a career in fighting if they start as an amateur. If someone starts as a pro, I almost wonder to myself, did they just do it for the quick paycheck on the weekend because they thought they were a tough guy? When you go through the amateurs and you ain't getting paid shit for your record in the amateurs, and you aren't getting any credit or any additional points to your record, your pro record, and you're fighting amateur bouts against tough guys and you're winning 6 out of 7 of them, like Roosevelt Roberts did, it shows me that you're damn serious about fighting for a living. I like Roosevelt Roberts. He's been on a massive streak until that last Vince Piquel fight where he's completely undefeated. Eventually lost, but he's still got some steam behind him after his last win. I think he's going to get the jump over Brok Weaver. I hope that they stay on the main card. It's a great addition to the main card. But to sum up, Spike Carlile, Billy Quarantillo, Jamahall Hill, and Roosevelt Roberts are some of the people that I'm most excited about on this card. I said Jamahall Hill was a fucking middleweight. I knew he wasn't. It's just my brain. I've been kicked in the head a lot, you know? My brain does things sometimes, you know? You can't blame me. But even still, it's an amazing card. Not so much in terms of ranked fighters and great big names that are going to bring a lot of attention to the card. However, this is a great moment for a lot of guys who should not really be on the main card of fight nights, especially an ESPN fight night like this one, because they're usually way more stacked than this, but obviously there's a current situation. It's given these guys a lot of time in the spotlight that they wouldn't normally get. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with this. I hope that Daniel Rodriguez gets a short replacement instead of Kevin Holland. I hope he stays on the card, and what I hope that they do is slide Daniel Rodriguez and his short notice replacement onto the prelims and Spike Carlile versus Billy Quarantillo onto the main card. That's what I would do if I was a matchmaker. Everyone is interested in Spike Carlile versus Billy Quarantillo. That fight could go either way, so I'm betting on the underdog. You know, if a fight can go either way and I think it's a little bit 50-50, I'm going with the underdog of Spike Carlile, the alpha ginger himself. I think he's going to get the job done. I think Roosevelt Roberts is going to win. I think Jamahall Hill is going to win. I think we're going to have a bunch more stars coming out of this fight night than we had going into it. And I think that's the benefit of not having such a stacked card. See you later. Those are my fighters to look out for. Yeah, goodbye. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. I'll see you later.